Hi, I'm Jade Simmons here with the final episode of Emerge Already. And I thought there's no better way to go out than to talk about the importance of musical outreach. I'm always harping on you guys about how important it is to make a lasting impact in the community around you. And there's no better way to do that than to make sure that kids understand the importance and the power of the arts. Joel, thank you so much for being with us on Emerge Already.
I'm so excited to be here, Jade. This is so much fun for me. Thank you so much for having me.
It was so great because when you were guest tweeting for us, you had so much info. And so I want to keep it up even further and let people hear from the horse's mouth what we have to say about what it really means to craft effective outreach. So the first thing I want to know is, do you really think that all artists need to be doing outreach? Or isn't it just kind of something that people who can't really perform do?
You know, Jade, that's a really hard question to answer because there's like the existential question of whether we should all be doing it. And my belief is absolutely yes. I mean, if you're going to be an artist and an advocate of your art, you need to be able to talk to audiences. You need to be able to lead outreach performances. But you have to have heart and you have to really care about your audience. I have a passion for outreach to really translate. We're trying to develop audiences. We're trying to foster a love for the arts. So if somebody's going to do outreach, I would hope that the heart's in the right place and their energy is there as well.
Well, jumping right in, what do you think is the biggest mistake that some artists tend to make when they craft outreach or even in the actual presentation of outreach?
Sure. The first thing that comes to mind is, we tend to treat it as secondary. That we have kind of the main gig, the big important concert, So as a result, we're not giving it the preparation, the focus, and the importance it really, really needs. You have to give it the importance, and you have to treat it as the big concert of your engagement.
So it shouldn't just be an afterthought. It should be something we're actually planning, an actual program that we practice.
Yes, it's funny.
Practice it too?
We practice playing, but we don't practice speaking. Running the program. And I think one big mistake that people do when they perform or they prepare for outreach is that they believe that just telling a little bit about the piece before you play it equals an outreach performance.
So don't you think maybe we're underestimating our audience, especially if we're talking to kids then?
Absolutely. Sometimes we think that we have to choose music based on accessibility, what's easier to understand. I cannot stand the verbiage of dumbing down or playing down to your audience.
Sure.
It's not something we want to be doing. We actually want to, choose music based on what is exciting for us to play, what makes great art, and that's going to translate into a wonderful engagement with the audience. And instead of trying to cover too much music, doing less but going more in depth, I do believe that less is more when it comes to outreach. Really try to, get less points across, but do it really well.
So is that what you think, is that the most important thing an artist should be considering when crafting?
I actually take a step back when crafting an outreach performance. I think we have to think more about purpose. What do we want the audience to remember about this? What do we want to teach? And then once we think about our goals and objectives as our presentation, we have to find a way to measure whether we're being successful at it.
Whoa, Joe, so you want us to practice, you want us to prepare.
Yes.
Then you want us to evaluate our outreach to know if it's actually effective? Tall order.
Jay, don't you think that when we're preparing for a concert that you're recording yourself and you get teachers and you get people telling you how you're doing and evaluating that? Why would that expectation for outreach be any different?
Of course.
I do believe that, some organizations are going to strictly hire some artists because of their ability to do this and do this very well.
Now, tell me this. I can go into a kindergarten classroom and a 12th grade classroom and present exactly the same thing, right?
I'm a believer that music is universal in terms of age groups. I mean, you can choose the same music. I mean, you can do the same thing from a kindergarten class all the way through high school.
Okay.
But the format, you can even present the same information, but the format in which you talk about, I think it has to be different. You need to be prepared generally to have an all-inclusive program. However, if you're doing something at a school and you have the option to break it down into age groups, there's certain segments that seem to work very well.
Okay,
For
like?
example, yeah, like kindergarten to second grade.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a very, very simple age group. They tend to want to ask a lot of questions, but they're not questions, they're statements, which is tends to sometimes, inhibit the third to fifth graders as a second group that I like to do separately. They tend to start engaging a little bit more and responding directly to you in terms of what you're doing. 6 to 8, which is typically your middle school ages. Now, I believe that's one of the most difficult age groups right there.
It is, but it's my favorite. But it's an intimidating group. Why do you think it's so intimidating?
Well, I think biologically there's a lot of changes going on. Getting ready to be self-sufficient in high school, so it's a transitional years from 6 to 8. Also, there's a cool factor going on, and there's a peer pressure that if they say something smart, they're not cool. So you have to kind of break through those barriers. And of course, once you get into high school, that seems to start dissipating.
I think relating is a key word with high schoolers. You may have some musicians in the audience who want to become professional artists like yourself, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think the key is when you're working with schools is do a little bit of research ahead of time. Try and figure out who the audience is, what kind of arts backgrounds they've had. Talk to the principal, talk to the music teachers, and get a sense of what's happening in the school.
But are there some parameters as far as time limits are concerned? Is there a kind of a dream time limit that you kind of want to stick within?
As a general rule, I use that, no more than an hour.
Yeah. It should also be as interactive as possible, right? So you're saying it's not just about me gracing these third graders with my presence. That's not just enough?
Outreach is not about the performer. Concerts are about the performer. Outreach is about the audience. That's what you're doing. You're outreaching. You're reaching out. I just think that's a paradigm shift that needs to happen when crafting a program. Think about the other performing arts. Theater and dance. I mean, the body and the person's out there. Musicians hide behind their instruments. For the exception of singers. That they seem so theatrical.
Sure.
I think instrumentalists have a little disadvantage that we're not used to just being out there, and outreach is something that's going to challenge us to do so.
That's awesome. Let's just end by talking very logistically. How does an artist go about getting into a school in the first place if the presenter, let's say the presenter, doesn't set outreach opportunities up for you?
Sure. I think every city has organizations that specialize in doing this.
Okay.
One that comes to mind is called Young Audiences of Houston. They have chapters in many cities, and you can contact them, and you can always call the district directly, and find out which are the schools that would be welcoming to such a program. It's usually as long as there's no fees involved, the school is more than welcome to receive free services.
Right, I was going to ask you about that. So pro bono is probably very easy. But if we're charging, it's probably easier when it's coming through the presenter, right?
Well, yeah, if we're charging, what we want to try to do is create a partnership with a teacher who really believes in what you're doing, and try to write a grant to some of the local organizations to do this type of presentation.
It's serious work because it's really a serious responsibility.
It's very important, and we need to treat it with the seriousness and the importance it deserves.
Well, you guys, I've been calling him the arts and education guru for weeks now. I'm so glad you got to hear him. Thanks so much, Joel, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Jade. It was a pleasure.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.